Boom! According to that, I am live. I'm going to put my watch on. I've just had it charging. I thought well, doesn't really make a difference. But there it goes. Nice to have. So yeah, how you all doing? So you'll notice there's no 2.5 voyages tonight. Victor is still, he's doing better, but he still isn't recovered. And he thought he needed some more time to rest. So we will probably aim for 2.5 voyages this time next weekend. The result is you get more of me. Speaking of more of me, I did a 2.5 hour long 180 BPM running mix last night. So thanks to everybody who tuned in and said hello while I was doing that. There's a lot of fun to do, and it's good to practice with my own music every now and again. But of course, tonight we are doing an after party. New feature, by the way. StreamYard has been adding tons of features lately. And there's one here where I can just put up there. I think this is showing a mirror image. Maybe it's not. Well, anyway, you can see that there's a QR code there, which I can show at the end of the stream for the after party. However, that is for the top of the hour. I do have work tomorrow morning, so I will be ending at midnight. But you've got me for the next hour here talking news, and there is a lot of news to go through tonight. So that is pretty cool. I was just going through the topics and posting them onto Blue Sky, but I'll go through them with you. Victor did not fall into another ditch. Well, we'll go through that. We'll say hello to everybody, and then we'll go through all the news, all the things that are happening in Japan this week. First of all, finally, after all this time waiting for autumn to arrive, it's really here. We've had beautiful weather. We're going to have more beautiful weather. It's going to be like 21 degrees. It's not even, in fact, it's not really autumn. Autumn, this time of year, it should be like cold and crisp and clear air, whereas it still is actually kind of warm at the moment and sunny. So we're finally getting nice weather after weeks and weeks of gloominess. So that is great. We've got DJ Sunny Side Up in here first, coming first in the chat and first on the MASH battle. Congratulations, DJ Sunny Side Up. You did great. Also, record number of comments, 43 comments. There's this new feature in YouTube allowing us to collaborate, where you'll see when we post something on Tokyo Digital Crew like that, we post it on both Sunny and my channel at the same time. So hopefully that helps with awareness. But I know that also Sunny's been sending people over from his live stream who, blind A/B testing, of course, chose his track this week. I did do the Proclaimers 500 miles substituted for Big Booty Bitches, and I make no apologies whatsoever. I was just messing around trying out tracks on the train, and when I came across Big Booty Bitches to the music of 500 miles by the Proclaimers, I lost my shit in the middle of the train, the whole song. It's actually it matches so perfectly that I actually think that Big Booty Bitches was probably the original lyrics that the Christian, Irish, Scottish redheaded twins actually used, and probably under pressure from their producers and human rights groups most likely changed it to the delightful lyrics that 500 miles actually has. I liked it so much. I haven't actually made the mashup because I could see that I was losing. But I intend to make a mashup video. The full version of that song needs to be heard. So at a later date, I will be posting that onto Tokyo Digital Crew because it is so awesome. Even though I lost, sometimes, even when you lose, you feel like you won, and that's where I'm at this week. I'm lowering the discs so that I fit better into the frame. Nonetheless, even though I won in spirit, it's just like people who throw free throws and believe that they all went in when they missed every single one, and that's definitely what I did this week. DJ Sunny Side Up hit it. He's already chosen the new track, by the way, for next week. It is going to be Venga Boys, Boom Boom Boom, which is actually a track that I quite like myself. Not sure how we're going to mash it, but that is part of the fun, is it not? So yeah, it should be a fun mash contest next week, and thanks to everybody who voted. We have Black Tengu, Japan, Mon Amour, the Japan house in from Greece. Your name is Black Tengu Guru. I'm with you. I don't know what's with this changing all the names stuff. So don't worry, you're Black Tengu. I know that you're Black Tengu, and it's great to have you in the chat. Second in the chat, as usual, here at 9:15. So you got in there early. I appreciate that. Did Victor fall into another ditch? Nope. He still is in the last one that he fell into, from what I can tell. But he's doing better now. It got really nasty, actually. Like, those infections not to be messed around with. Yeah, he's been going about it the hard way, and yeah, definitely commiserations to that. Could happen to any of us. So that is something which hopefully we'll be back and we'll do a proper 2.5 Voyages next week. Actually, really excites me with the collab feature. It means that we can even feature the channels that we are featuring, so that they get some of the views, and you can actually go and find the channels as well. It's a really cool. There are, and this is like unquestionably, this is all AI. This is AI introducing features which are allowing people. I'm doing this myself. I'm creating software applications at work now. I'm throwing out trash everywhere, and it's letting everybody, YouTube, StreamYard, now develop and add features like at a clip that is actually great. I can't even keep up. I feel like I need AI to help me take advantage of all the new features that are available because of AI. As you know, I'm a techno optimist about these things, but that is definitely what I'm seeing right now. Anyway, no, the question was, did Victor fall into another ditch? And the answer is not to my knowledge. I think he still is in the same one as before. Still just not fit. Indeed, Cobra Stenchi answering correctly. Good to see you. Still not fit, but how is he doing? Is he ambulatory? Still, as far as I know, he still is on antibiotics. He sort of struggled through, then went to a doctor, got a whole bunch of shots and stuff, got better, and then got worse again, and then had to go back, and it got into a bad state again. Yeah, it's now, I believe, on the mend, but he had to go for like 2 shots and so on. It's a really nasty, it's a crush injury, like the tissue was damaged. It was a really nasty fall. So there we go. It's take care, everyone. But I think he is on the mend, but his body is still taking a lot of time to recover. So those are the details indeed. Yuri the Best in from Kiev. Good to have you in here. And first, we'll give you first. It's 9:50. You're about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're about 6th, but I'll give you the win if you want it. Good to have you in here. As always, hope that you're doing well. You look to be around 7th. I think that's probably right, Quentin Rankett. We've got Aaron in here. Get your drinks ready and smash the like button. Indeed, please do smash the like button. Great to see so many people in here. And thank you always, our moderator, Aaron, for keeping a state of peace in the comments. The world needs more Aarons, definitely, especially this week, as we're about to talk about. So there we go. You'll queue up a question now. How is Victor doing? Just answered, but that's all very good. Dan H is surprised that Japan doesn't push for all batteries to adopt the JETA standard. It's the strictest in the world and would slow down the loss to the Chinese. So, well, JETA has lots of standards. It's something I used to do for my work. I think that they're like a voluntary standard that you can slap on. In fact, I know that some electric devices, some regulations for some types of electric devices require the use of JIS and JETA, but JETA is like an industry association that publishes voluntary standards. But there are JIS standards, and there are a lot of laws on things like plugs and stuff like that. Doesn't necessarily have to be JETA per se, but there are regulations around around things like power supplies and plugs. Japanese plugs famously are only 2-pin, not 3. Which requires double insulation on plugs. And it's something which actually catches out a lot of products, for example, from China, that don't have the necessary level of insulation and can catch fire. And it's something that people get into trouble all the time. In terms of what's happening with the batteries and how many crappy batteries, and it's not just, remember, it's not just portable batteries, it's batteries that are in devices and so on. So it's kind of hard to regulate batteries that are sometimes internal and sometimes external, but certainly is causing problems. We'll get into that. That's definitely one of the topics tonight. It's kind of like your beer standards in Britain, in which in some areas are the strictest in the world, but not enforced. Yet Japan does enforce pretty harsh standards on electronics, and I've participated in that enforcement. So believe me, they are strict and they are enforced. But there again, and remember as well, while there are certainly strict standards for a lot of things, these are often criticized by the EU and the US as being shadow tariffs. They're basically trade barriers, having incompatible or slightly modified standards for Japan. And while there's some truth, the ones that I've dealt with, not for batteries, but certainly for power supplies, there are good reasons behind them. And frankly, it's really cool having a place where everything just works with 2 plugs. But anyway, that is the thing. Lara made it in here. Good evening, beautiful people. She's already sleepy, recovering from a cold that took away her voice. It was real fun working at an eikaiwa today. Yes. It's like a mime-based eikaiwa, I'm guessing. That sounds very, very tough. I hope that you are feeling better It is that time of year. There is this crazy flu going through Japan at the moment. As always happens this time of year, it's a new sort of a modification. Apparently, normally results in fever for 3 days. Makes me very paranoid going on crowded trains every day, as I will be doing tomorrow morning. So I am masking up on the train. Not that I really know if that makes any difference, but yeah, definitely. Everybody gargle, turn on humidifiers, and get lots of rest. Anyway, you want to be able to fight those germs off. Sorry that you're feeling so terrible, Lara, and hope that you get better soon. And hope that I'd love to, yeah, I'd love to. I'd kind of. There's a good skit in there somewhere of being at an eikaiwa and losing your voice, but yeah. Otsukare sama desu. I'm sure you had to struggle through that. Quint Ranked. How would adopting the standards slow down the Chinese? Well, yeah, I mean, if anything, I suppose there's a thing where Chinese companies are good at adapting. But there again, I mean, generally, Chinese manufacture for everybody, and they just want the world to be on one standard. That's really it, rather than them trying to violate anything per se. Yeah, we get all of that. Dan H. rightly saying, hopes that Lara gets better soon. Yes, everybody coming in here saying, indeed, Lara, hope you get your voice back. Yeah, have to definitely be careful with that. So yes, how would that slow the Chinese? Well, I suppose anything which restricts anyone from making crap. I mean, everything gets manufactured in China, and to the extent, like I say, it's a business thing, right? That you always, to some extent, not all businesses work like this, but to the extent that you make it easy to manufacture lots of things cheaply to sell as much as possible, there's an incentive to get away with. This is why you have standards, because otherwise people will get away with the minimum standards. And when everything's getting manufactured in China, there are some brands that make money off being known for their brands and better quality, and there are some that are just OEMs that just make what they can get away with, and will slap any brand label that you haven't heard on and sell online, or sometimes even from international shopping sites, and ship them into Japan, and people will often buy the cheapest ones. And it's that area. So I suppose you're slowing down not necessarily the Chinese, you're slowing down anyone who's making crappy stuff. But let's face it, everybody else has lost the ability. They can't make stuff in America even if they want to anymore. Or in Europe, they've all lost their manufacturing capability because China is so good at it. So there we go. Whoa, big surprise. Shubis, you made it. Glad that you could make it. Never fear. In from Panama. Hope you were enjoying a delicious cup of coffee this Sunday morning where you are. Big howdy from Greece. There we got Tadom coming in saying good evening to everyone. Good evening right back at you. Must be in Japan at the moment. Great to see. Hope that you're doing well. There's the coffee. That's what I like to see. So a bit of a debate there about Chinese manufacturers eating the Japanese. But I mean, Japan isn't even really trying anymore. I think even the famous lithium batteries made by Panasonic and Sanyo and so on, that Tesla are using and so on, I think a high proportion of those are made in China, just because, one, they're better at manufacturing, and of course the costs are lower for that. By the way, I'm going to take off that media asset. I've got 19 people watching right now. Boom. According to my stats. You know what? Maybe I should just leave it there. Leave in the comments. Should I leave the QR code? It's kind of a cool feature. It's got the after party. Oh, it doesn't say after party on it though. Yeah, those who are wondering, there it is. The QR code here is for the after party, but we'll show that at the end of the show. I think it's a cool new feature anyway in StreamYard that I am enjoying. Traveler's Thread, Erin, she likes the shirt. This is the first time I have ever worn this shirt. It is from Uniqlo. It is the Airism EX. I really like, man, Uniqlo. I think I got this for like 990 yen or something. Maybe it was 1600 yen, but it's super cheap. I got it online. I just washed it and I'm wearing it for the first time. Does it bring out the blue in my eyes? Hopefully it does. Yeah, these are awesome. They're super comfortable. Yeah, they're good stuff. So I'm trying it on to see how it goes. I've already got a compliment. I might never take this shirt off. That could cause other problems, but we'll see how we go with that. Anyway, believe in yourself. Nice to see you believe in yourself. I don't know if you're agreeing with the shirt bringing out the blues in my eyes, but I'll take every compliment I can get. Same weather in Athens. Should be cold, but it's mild. I mean, I suppose, yeah, global warming is great this time of year, but we all know that we're going to catch it pretty badly when summer rolls around. That reminds me, by the way, I think I've mentioned this before. I'm going to be in New Zealand from December 23, which is, well, I'll be in New Zealand on the 24th. I fly out on the 23rd, which means that on the 28th and on the of December and the 4th of January, I'm going to be in New Zealand. The upload speeds in New Zealand, we know, are trash. I will not be able to live stream. I'll probably record and post, but even like simple videos take hours to upload on Starlink. It's really funny. Starlink works well for downloading, but not for uploading. But I will post some shows over the New Year period. But I will be in New Zealand enjoying summer, and I'm looking forward to that. So that will be a thing. Dan H, why does Takaichi want to follow failed and ruinous 8-month experiment called Doge? Well, I don't think she's going to actually put Elon in front. You know what? That isn't in my topics tonight, but it is a topic that she has announced a kind of Department of Government Efficiency, inspired by Trump. Partly it's just kissing Trump's ass, which is the job of every Japanese prime minister, but particularly when you have look, if you like Trump, if you don't like Trump, I would call him an unhinged and crazy president. But knowing that there are people who like him, I would say a maverick and strategically ambiguous president such as Trump, it still does demand that the world come up and kiss his ass. And Japan knows that that's certainly what it needs to do, particularly given what's going on in geopolitics at the moment. So, there's Takaichi primarily wants to increase military spending by much more than the Japanese government can afford. And so when the Ministry of Finance says we can't afford it, then, she's saying, well, let's go through, because everyone knows there's tons of wasteful spending in the Japanese government. In fact, this was actually something that the Democratic Party was elected on in 2009, I think. And they actually did this kind of brutally. They had basically committees in gymnasiums slashing governmental budgets. And in fact, part of the re-election of the LDP was to go back to not having this sort of supervision of government spending. But, basically essentially the exercise is in practice shaking out the sofa cushions in order to fund spending that Takaichi wants to do, but Japan doesn't have the budget for. They can't increase taxes. They are still continuing to spend more than they collect. And so going through and reviewing programs for what can be cut back is something that has been done before in the Japanese government. It's kind of ironic it's happening from the LDP because they're typically the party that doesn't do that sort of thing. But if she wants to get specific programs done, and Japan definitely needs to increase its defense spending, just like all countries in Europe desperately need to do. The idea of finding ways to cut spending is a good idea. So the fact that they're doing a common sense thing anyway, and she is simply calling up Trump and saying that you inspired us for extra brownie points, I don't think she's actually going to do anything remotely like what the US Doge did. I don't think anyone in Japan is that stupid in terms of the implementation, in terms of the blind stealing of personal information, plugging in, getting Big Balls and his friends to plug in their AI to go through and to, shut down the government and haul out, appointees who were seen as politically biased and all that. That's not going to happen in Japan. But I think a rationalization of spending is actually a good idea. So I think she's branding it as something that will basically she's using something that she would do anyway as an opportunity to kiss up to Trump, which sounds embarrassing, but thank you, America. You put us in the position that we all have to do that. So that's pretty much what's happening as far as my take. We'll have to wait and see. I could be wrong. It could actually be, it could be worse, but we'll see. Is flu still rampant in Japan? It still is. Yes, the numbers are going up. It's like COVID at the moment in terms of the rates are worse in West Japan rather than East Japan, but most prefectures, I believe, have, I forget the units of statistics, but it's all red at the moment. There is flu everywhere, which is why if you are in Japan and probably anywhere else in the Northern Hemisphere going through flu season, it is amazing to me, by the way, how it came out during COVID, how the correlation and later scientific link between sunshine exposure and COVID and other diseases was sort of came out. And it's something that hadn't really been put together before, but the idea of the role of vitamin D in boosting immunity, and this is why, you don't get so much flu during summertime, it's because of the extra sunshine. And for places that have less sunshine, for example, shorter days in winter or just, terrible weather, flu rates and so on increase. And this is what happens this is why during the Northern Hemisphere, you want to be careful. And it's why, for me, when there's sunshine, like there's been in Tokyo lately, even when there's shorter days, get out in the sun and boost your immune system. I mean, even if it's wrong, it feels nice anyway. We're obviously wired to want to get sun. So, highly recommend that. But we had about a month and a half of just nonstop gloom. And then the influenza rates shot up here like they did other places. So, yeah. Believe in Yourself asks, these extra features added may point to another sale of StreamYard. I don't know. I actually see that there's actually more features than I can keep up with. They're announcing every couple of days, and I'm not using them. The QR code I thought was so good, I want to implement it. But for example, I can stream this right now in 2 perspectives at once. If you look at this on mobile, I can stream this in a way so that you can see it, cut for vertical video as well as horizontal video at the same time. They just keep adding all these options that, frankly, I don't really need. I just like to come in and do the same thing every week and not use my brain, except for talking to you. But I mean, they could be going for a sale, but the business seems to be going well. And the fact is, I am paying for a pro account because these features are awesome. So, that's my take. Anyway, yes, Lara, not just really annoying not being able to speak. It still sounds terrible. Please do get lots of rest and take care of that. People sharing cold stories. We've got Victor needs to remember he's an Oyaji. He shouldn't get into fights. Well, he picked a fight with a drain. So, I'm not going to take sides, but I'm suspecting that the drain had it coming. But nonetheless, these things happen. So there we go. You're not late, Jan. We've been waiting for you. We're going through saying hello. It's Jane Motts, isn't it? You had this probably before. Whenever I see Jan Motts, it makes me want to say Jan. But it is Jane, and you are most welcome to show up whenever the hell you like. We are going to get into the topics because there are a lot of topics, but I'm just going to catch up all the greetings, including to you. So you're definitely not late. So let's speed up a little bit. We've got Yuri the Best, USB-C. Yeah, you know what? The USB-C cables are brilliant, and I wish that they would replace all lightning cables and so on. That was something where it's one of the, while it's kind of my job to oppose the EU telling companies how to run themselves, because honestly, if they were good at making companies run themselves, then all these businesses wouldn't be running away from the EU to America, where it's easier to do business. But the USB-C thing, that was a correct call. And I actually thank the EU for that. So there we go. Who else we got in here? Going to skip to see just who is coming in. I haven't said hello to you yet. We've got the Master 1337. Long time no see. Happy first Advent. Is that what it is today? It is November 30th. I should probably know what Advents even are, but I do not. So there we go. We're saying hello there. We've got, who else we got in here? Uniqlo for the win. Woo! Yes, they are awesome. When I was in America, that's pretty much all that I got. Most of what I have is actually Uniqlo. And the Aerism stuff are awesome. Yeah, they fit well. They're well made. It's just awesome. All made in China, of course. But good. That's what you want. We've got a Batman angle there. Let's go like this. Am I taking JR? Asks Dan H. I take JR, most of the time. I always take a combination of Metro and JR, but for my commute, the Yamanote line makes the most sense, except that it's horrible. The other day, I actually had to go to a meeting in a different office, and I used the Saikyo line, which we'll be talking about today. The Saikyo line is famous for being among the worst train lines in terms of commuter crush in Japan, and it was pretty awful. So there we go. Quint Rankid, Christmas in summer? Yes, just as God intended it to be spent. Christmas is a midsummer vacation holiday. I never understood why they decided to put Christmas in the middle of the summer vacations, but it is a great time for a barbecue, and of course nothing better than after Christmas dinner, jumping in the swimming pool and going to the beach. That is how I grew up, and that is absolutely how nature intended Christmas to be spent. Jesus was probably accidentally born in the wrong hemisphere, but what can you do? If lithium batteries are made in China and they're used on Tesla cars, well, that's exactly what's been happening with the batteries. Global leadership Top Gun movie soon. I don't know what that means. It sounds like a good idea. Got America explain why NEETs don't get sick. Do NEETs not get sick? Or maybe that's it. I mean, if you live in a bubble, maybe that is a thing. Who knows? Who knows? But that is a good question. Got Abel Rosario. Good to have you in here. Long time no see. Well, actually, not long time no see. You've been in the last couple of weeks. Great to see you again. Buenas noches. Good to have you. You're still in Japan, right? But yeah, great to have you in here. I hope that you are doing well. I was talking about Junior with my trip to New Zealand. What about Junior? Yeah, am I taking Junior? Am I taking my son? I am absolutely taking my son. My son asked to go to New Zealand. He likes the dogs. He does not like the internet speeds or the Fortnite ping scores, but he likes the dogs. And for that, we are going there. Plus, honestly, it's good to get him some fresh air and out of everything. So what about those who think that Jesus was born in Japan? I don't think anyone thinks that Jesus was born in Japan. There's a lot of people who are convinced that he not only died in Japan, but he died in 3 different places in Japan. There is this hilarious thing, as would naturally happen, of mysterious figures at different times in history who showed up mysteriously. People with white skin and large noses who came into Japan, often supposedly in prefectures like Akita Prefecture from the northeast, northwest, which is very close to Russia, for example. And some white people came in and they originally started proselytizing, saying what a great guy Jesus was. And they were like, what? He said, there's this guy Jesus. He's a really good guy. He's like, what? And he's like, Jesus. He's a lovely, let me tell you all about him. He's like, what, you're Jesus? He goes, okay. I'm Jesus. That's my theory on what happened. I think the missionaries gave up trying to explain Jesus and just switched from third to first person, and somehow picked up some believers along the way. And there are actual accounts of a mysterious white person who came into Japan a long time ago and, made all the same claims that were in the Bible, but ascribed them to themselves and, got married, had tons of kids, and got buried here. And why wouldn't you? It's just like the first, it's like Austin Powers, where Dr. Evil goes back in time and claims to have invented pop songs from the future. I'm pretty sure if you're a missionary, the first missionaries probably did that, except instead of inventing pop songs from the future, they invented the Bible. And who can blame them, right? So we've got Sadiq, glad that you can make it. And today I am early. No, I am not. You're late. I'm starting from 10 p.m. now. So there we go. I'm going to get into the topics. We've only got half an hour left. I'll just spend half an hour saying hello, but it's been a fun saying hello session. So let's go in. We've got a lot of topics. So here we go. Racist soba. So a soba chain that is... the chain is called Fuji Soba, and they are a nationwide chain. Here is their shop in Kawasaki that is apparently not racist. However, they have a shop in Kamiyacho. By the way, it is a shitty, cheap, more than 100 stores, all mainly in the Kanto region, but they also have stores overseas. Apparently, in the very, very fancy Kamiyacho district. Kamiyacho is in Minato Ward, which is the richest, most wealthy neighborhood in Japan. If you think that's because there's lots of rich Japanese there, there are lots of rich Japanese there, but there are also lots of embassies, investment bankers, investment banking offices. It is like the expat capital of Japan. However, they put up a sign there, and they put up a sign that says, travelers should avoid lunchtime. We prioritize people who work or study in the area. Now, this isn't necessarily racist, of course. Kamiyacho is full of foreigners, including foreigners who work there often at very well-paid sort of who probably wouldn't go and eat their shitty soba to start with. But anyway, this particular one shop, they decided to put it up there because apparently, no doubt, they had experiences with tourists, and rather than communicate with them in a way to make everything work, they just decided one day that they didn't want to put up with it anymore. They put a sign saying, travelers, I mean, maybe they mean gypsies, who knows? I mean, there's all sorts of, I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but hopefully that's not how that's taken. And anyway, there aren't any in Japan to speak of in that regard. So no, they definitely mean tourists by this. So they want people who live and work in the area, who are mostly foreigners. So it's not clear how the implementation of this worked. But of course, when you put a note that appears racist. I mean, if you're a foreigner, you're immediately going to be defensive about this, right? That, so many foreigners do work or study in the area. There's lots of Japanese schools and lots of foreign companies. But that's what they said. We prioritize people who live in the area, who live and work in the area. Lots of people sort of posted, some saying that they did this wrong and they should have just put a rule that everybody should just stay for 10 to 15 minutes and get in and get out, which is what you're supposed to do, and not sit there all day. It is cheap. Again, because it's cheap, it's maybe attracting tourists or whatever, but apparently putting this up there attracted people who said, oh dear, if staff are refusing entry to people who look Japanese, that could be a problem. Some people sort of raised this. In the end, the national head office of the chain told the branch to knock that shit off on November the 21st, and they decided not to be racist anymore. So everyone lived happily ever after, except for me, because I'm allergic to soba and wouldn't go there anyway, especially if it was racist. I mean, racist and allergic. I'm allergic both to racist people and to soba. So that is the thing. It is not that cold, but I'm sitting beside a window and the cold air comes in and it gets my feet cold, and I do not want to catch a cold at night. So I'm going to put socks on. So pardon me for having socks in the middle of the broadcast. Wow, that's the most exciting thing that's happened to me in a long time. Jeez, you even saw a bit of leg there. I really should make this an OnlyFans. Okay, continuing on. China has continued reacting calmly and with careful forethought, and chosen its words very carefully. By the way, great to see we've got Dokiro. I don't recognize the handle name, but there we go. Everyone knows that Jesus grew. You got me, Dokiro. That's absolutely, yeah, you got me. I can't respond to that truth. The Atomic Tom, great to see you in here as well, along with everybody else. Yeah. Well, soba's great if you can have it. I always had it in muesli, and my mouth would always be weird when I'd eat muesli with buckwheat in it. But yeah, it wasn't until I had a French crepe. The French are the ones that got me, that helped me notice it. And when my mouth went like crazy reacting to it, I got like a sort of a rash inside of my throat. Yeah, and I sort of that's how I learned I was allergic to soba. But of course I can have noodles. Remember, not all noodles called soba are buckwheat. You can get Chinese soba. This is a case where the Chinese stuff is better, actually. Chuka soba is just regular noodles, and I love those. And I'm not allergic to them. But yeah, the old buckwheat things, I can't deal with them. Anyway, the Chinese people, the People's Liberation Army, in any case, apparently they have social media accounts where they put out helpful phrases such as that they are ready upon any moment when ordered by Xi Jinping that they will turn Tokyo into a sea of fire. To which many, when this was broadcast in Japan, that they are continuing to just lose their shit over Japan, basically saying that it has the right to defend itself and China shouldn't invade anybody, specifically Taiwan. China continuing to lose its shit over this and say that it has the right to invade whoever the hell it wants, especially Taiwan, and Japan as well if it sees fit. Said that they'll turn Tokyo into a sea of fire, going full North Korea, to which Japanese internet posters, I didn't go through all the Japanese internet stuff this week, but most of the responses from people who I'm guessing are probably Hanshin fans. Hanshin fans are baseball fans of Tokyo's major rival, the Osaka Hanshin Tigers, who just want Tokyo to get destroyed in every way possible at all times. And they are all responding. So they're basically saying, hey, whenever you guys have a war, you're shit weak, shit weak as anyway. Bring it on. This reminds me, there were skits as well of people saying, if Al Qaeda wants to target New York City, we dare you to attack it more. Like Southern folks. I remember seeing onion skits of people in the South giving advice to Al Qaeda on ways to attack New York. Anyway, yes, the internet from outside of Tokyo daring the Chinese military to follow through on its threats to attack Tokyo. How about everybody just chill? But yeah, that is a thing that was happening. Scandal of the week. I haven't covered a lot of scandals lately, but here's a pretty good one. The mayor of Maebashi City, which is not a small city. It's in Saitama Prefecture. Ogawa Akira. So her name, it's a woman's name. Akira is actually a woman's or a man's name. Oh, and by the way, this guy, Jay Allen, I ran into him at the gym the other day and said hello, which was, I don't know. He seemed a bit freaked out. I think he might have been worried that I was some kind of a right-wing stalker. He seemed very guarded. But hey, if I see someone from the internet that I know, I'm like, hey, buddy, we've been friends forever. Do you like me? And they act completely like I'm some sort of weirdo or something. It makes no sense. So anyway, she is a 42-year-old mayor of Maebashi, which has 325,000 people, which I think if it was in New Zealand, that'd probably make it like the third biggest city. In Japan, it is, I thought it was Saitama. It's Gunma. It's Gunma's second biggest city anyway. Yeah, the story is that the mayor, who is single, she is not married, but apparently she was conducting official mayoral business with a fellow city employee. She did 10 very special meetings with him in love hotels, and apparently was followed. Now, what happened here? The way that the story came out. This wasn't even a tabloid journalist like stalking out. Normally these things happen because tabloid journalists stalk out these politicians and they catch them going into love hotels. But this was different. The person who she was having these business meetings with in love hotels, apparently his wife suspected of him having an affair and followed him and was surprised to see him meeting the mayor on a dinner date. She didn't see anything sus going on, but then, then she told the tabloid, and the tabloid tracked it and then found days when they went and met in a love hotel. Now, apparently, the mayor said that they had to meet in the love hotel for privacy reasons, which sounds completely legitimate. The meetings there were no male-female relations. The visits to the love hotels, which were 10 times, were strictly work-related. Yeah. So anyway, this carried on for a little bit, and eventually she was sort of forced to quit. There are apparently 10,000 phone calls complaining, probably by like 2 people, to the city government suggesting that she quit. By the way, this is covered by other media, but of course this in the sex and nightlife section of the Unseen Japan blog. But this is a very good blog, so it's nice to cover it this way. People calling up saying that the mayor should quit immediately for going to a love hotel. She is single. He's the married one, but this is definitely another case where there have been so many cases where, for example, famous celebrity newsreaders and actors have been seen with married baseball players or celebrities going off to love hotels, and the baseball players get a telling off, and the married guys get a slap on the wrist and a telling off, and the women broadcasters get fired and banned from the airwaves. There is still this disproportionate sense of the other woman in Japan being the aggressor, that the society kind of, if anyone's in the wrong, it's the dude more than the woman. But it's the righteous indignation thing is a thing in Japan, and that is what is happening. I mean, it's yeah, the confidential meetings in a love hotel. I'm not sure it's the best way to do it, but there we go. Co-workers consultations matter too, indeed. Gotta love the internet. Yes, we've got they've been watching too. Is that what happens on anime? Probably. Oh, meeting in a love hotel 10 times. I mean, I'm just impressed with the stamina. So there we go. Anyway, that's the thing that's happening. Meanwhile, China continues to be completely chilled out. They've the PLA channel on the internet is demanding that Japan neither change its constitution nor increase its defense spending, both of which Japan is doing, to which I think they need to be introduced to Barbara Streisand. Everyone who knows about the Barbara Streisand effect, Barbara Streisand apparently, what was the story? It was somebody was like defaming her or drawing attention to something, put some defamatory article, and she complained about it so loudly that it was something that nobody knew anything about, but her complaining about it made the damage that she was claiming more real and worse. If anything, in Japan, this is This is just going to encourage everybody in Japan to agree with amending the constitution and growing the military because China is telling it not to. And they do this with China, Taiwan as well. There have been elections, and every time there are elections in Taiwan, the Chinese government says, we demand everybody vote for the KMT, or else, we're going to be very, very angry and disappointed with you. And so, of course, everybody votes for whoever is not the Kuomintang. And then China loses its shit at how disobedient everyone in Taiwan was, which is partly why now they're looking at invading them. But there we go. Did the government pay for the visits? No, they did not. If not, then what's the problem, except for the guy being married? It's that she slept with a guy who is married. In Japan, there is a thing where, it's like traditionally in common law countries, until like the 1970s, adultery, a man sleeping with a married woman was considered like stealing. For the husband could sue the other guy who committed adultery with the married woman. The aggrieved husband could sue on the same basis as if the guy had taken his car for a ride. It's literally a conversion of a chattel. Like they would protect married women by giving a right to recourse, by treating it as if you stole their possession. That became sort of politically incorrect, and you can't sue anyone for taking your car for a joyride. Or for taking your wife for a joyride in the same way that you would take your car for a joyride. Japan has the same sort of a concept that, somehow the married people are the victims when someone comes and intervenes. This is something that can happen. And certainly just the general judgment that whenever this happens, the assumption right away is that, it must be the woman's fault. It's just something that happens. China must be dehydrated. Yes, indeed. How do escorts get away with it? Well, I mean, Japan technically doesn't have escorts. It's like pachinko. Japan doesn't have gambling. They just have a place where you can go and play video games and where you can win plastic trophies with plastic trophy collection shops next door. And Japan doesn't have escorts. You can't have paid sex in Japan. You can pay for anything other than sex. So long as you're not so long as you're Bill Clinton, basically. But escorts are illegal, but of course they exist, and same as everywhere else. Whenever it comes to sex, everyone's a hypocrite. Is pretty much the moral of the story there. But the mayor is basically who, after saying she wouldn't quit for a while, decided to give in and quit. So there you go. Eric Bailey, 6779, great to have you in here. I believe the legal term is alienation of affection. It used to be. In New Zealand, anyway, where I was trained, it used to be the tort of conversion. It was literally the misappropriation of a chattel, and it was based on property law. But certainly that's a much better sounding term than the one that they used to use where I was educated in the law. Anyway, China continuing to react totally rationally and calm. Apparently they read the UN Charter, which is amazing because they've probably just discovered a whole bunch of stuff, including the genocide in Xinjiang, that they are violating. And hopefully they're taking notes on the things that they're doing wrong. But somewhere in it, they found that in the original UN Charter, there is the right to the United Nations originally. Before the United Nations was founded, the United Nations was the name of the allies that were fighting against Japan, Germany, and the Italians until they changed sides in the middle of the war and became the good guys. And apparently they were called the United Nations, those forces, the British, the Americans, the Commonwealth, and all of those who were fighting against the Germans and the Japanese were the United Nations. And when the United Nations was formed, they actually have a frame of a phrase, enemy nations, and that the United Nations, anyone in the United Nations can take necessary force to stop any enemy nations if they get any ideas about repeating what they did before. And this was squarely aimed at Italy, Germany, and Japan. Apparently, it took until 1995 for them to amend this. Which they did, and China supported the amending of this to say that people don't have a free card to just attack Japan whenever they want. However, China decided to come out in the UN the other day and say, you know what, the UN does give us the right to just attack Japan whenever the hell we want. And if we think that they're about to become like World War II style assholes again, we might just do that. To which Japan quietly said, hey, your enemy clause claim that this thing is still valid and you're allowed to invade us whenever you like is contrary to facts and not acceptable, which I'm sure is going to dissuade them. I mean, China really, really, really wants to invade people and is very, very upset at people telling them that it can't. So anyway, Japan kind of calmly saying, how about no, in as down key a way as possible. But that's pretty much what is happening. Why is pachinko the worst? Just curious, mind you, Jan Motts. I've talked a lot about pachinko on here in the past. It's basically it's like the old prostitution thing. It's a huge fiction that in Japan, while gambling is illegal and does not exist, at the same time there are something like 20 million gambling addicts who are addicted to the gambling of pachinko, which are legal casinos. And a lot of people in Japan are addicted to and play for money and ruin their families playing. However, it exists in this gray zone where the police and society accept that if pachinko works on a model where you don't collect the prize money for the gambling in the premises, if you have to go to a third unrelated shop, which is in fact connected, which is where you go and exchange plastic trophies for money, by turning it into a triangle-shaped structure, it is not. It is no longer gambling, at least from a police perspective. That said, casinos have tried opening up in Japan using the pachinko model, and everyone was immediately arrested and thrown in jail. There is also a thing where there was an argument that Japanese society looked the other way on pachinko for a long time because basically after World War II, with all the Koreans that were stuck in Japan, it was a way that Koreans who were basically unable to, due to discrimination, they weren't able to get jobs. They weren't accepted into society anywhere else, and they were destitute. So it was sort of a way, it's a bit like the reservation casinos in a way. It was a way that they were able to provide for themselves, where so long as they did deals with the police and local politicians, including paying a lot of money to politicians as protection, basically politicians and police and everyone agreed that they would look the other way so long as they operated in a particular way and followed certain understandings. They would allow these Koreans to run pachinko parlors as a way to basically allow them to be economically independent and not destitute and forced into crime or whatever in the societies that they're in. And this was sort of the understanding. So it was sort of tolerated within agreed boundaries while gambling remained illegal. And it's a huge social problem. That is, like I say, there's a huge number of addicts in Japan. And if you think that this is, and ironically, pachinko is illegal in Korea because it's understood how addictive and how terrible for society it is. Yet at the same time, when Japan has in the past tried regulating pachinko, the Korean government has come in and said, no, don't do that because that'll be bad to all the Koreans in Japan. So it's got a complicated history, but yeah, it's basically a form of slot machine gambling that is ruinous to families and yet is allowed to continue to exist. Also, for a long time, most of the pachinko parlors in Japan, when I say that they were run by ethnic Koreans, these were Koreans who retained Korean citizenship. And you think, well, that's fine. I mean, they're South Koreans, right? No, they were North Korean. Most of the pachinko parlors in Japan were run by North Koreans who would pay tithes of that money to the North Korean society and back to North Korea. And so there was this irony as well that was causing a lot of backlash against pachinko in Japan, that when North Korea was testing missiles that were being fired over Japan, those missiles were largely being paid for by Japanese gambling addicts. The money, the North Korean missile program against Japan was funded by Japanese pachinko parlors run by North Koreans. Various things happened in the early 2000s, including the whole coming out of the abductee scandal and so on, that caused a lot of North Korean citizens who live in Japan, multi-generational, to cut their ties with North Korea and to naturalize and become Japanese and to sell their companies and do all this sorts of stuff and to stop paying money to North Korea. So things have changed, but pachinko is a deep, complicated, complex thing. But there are many problems with it. So there we go. Eric Bailey prefers the dynamite boat race. I don't know about that one. So there we go. 10 minutes left. Damn. Okay. 8 minutes left. Let's keep going. Apparently, overseas-based Tokyo condo buyers doubled in 2025 first half. Most of them, the statistics that came out about this, where they're coming from. So there's worries that people are flipping properties because now that house prices are starting to go up in Tokyo, they're being seen as investments. You can get mortgages for super low prices. Properties are undervalued and they're increasing in value. So, I mean, they're increasing the share double to 3%. So they were 1.5% before. So still negligible. But yeah, in wards like Chiyoda, where people like to buy properties around Tokyo Bay that no one else will buy, most of the buyers are from Taiwan, followed by China, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Britain. Some people saying, why are you handing out the nationalities? That's just going to foster discrimination and so on. But some people are very uncomfortable with Chinese nationalities buying land in Japan. And this is being seen as grounds to increase restrictions on earning property in Japan or buying property in Japan for foreign, at least people not living in Japan. So we'll see about that. Again, the Love Hotel scandal. I don't know, in places like France, I think going to a Love Hotel 10 times would probably guarantee re-election rather than be seen as a problem, but there we go. YouTube is looking at replacing the algorithm with do-it-yourself. You say what you want to see, and AI will show you a feed, will curate your feed, personalized to you. I think that's a great thing. If Google is farming all of this for training its AI, I want it to get put to use to benefit me. I want to be able to optimize how my stream works so that people who want to discover it can discover it. I want all this AI that I'm helping to train to work for me. So I'm all for YouTube putting in features that are helpful. But there we go. In proof that no good deed goes unpunished in a country where, at least in Tokyo, I think Tokyo Metropolitan Police spend more time filling out forms on lost umbrellas than they do on any other crime or thing like that. It's very dry, I have to say, hydrated. So apparently when the police found that there was a certain brand of toy gun that was able to fire real bullets that had been distributed in Japan, they announced an amnesty for people to return toy guns, or the specific toy gun that that can fire real rounds and violates the firearms law. So apparently an old guy who claims to have mysteriously received some of these non-compliant guns that actually, these toy guns through a missent package. That's what he claims anyway. He had a whole bunch of these toy guns, and he decided to take advantage of the amnesty to just turn them all into the police. And when the police checked them, they found that several of the toy guns did in fact breach the firearms law. However, the amnesty only applied to the one type of gun that had been found out, not the other guns. And as a result, they arrested the man and charged him with possession of an illegal firearm without a license, even though he had just turned them over to the police to get rid of them. And as part of an amnesty. Again, the police just have nothing better to do, and it is dumb. So it'd be hard to believe that he would be prosecuted, but still he is being charged with violating the gun law for that. So that is a thing. A bit of a confusing article here. If you come to Japan for medical treatment, there is this medical tourism where people are coming, getting treatment, and leaving without paying their bills. And you leave with a bill of more than 2,000 or 200,000 yen, so $1,500 US unpaid. The Ministry of Health is going to start handing over information to the Ministry of Immigration, which will basically run checks on people applying for residency or to come into Japan. And you may not be able to get back into Japan next time you try to come if you come here as a medical tourist, I believe, and you have unpaid bills. And they're lowering the threshold for this from 200,000 yen to 10,000 yen. So if you leave with a $60 unpaid medical bill from Japan, which could happen for all sorts of small things, relatively, you can be banned from ever visiting Japan again. Now, they say re-entry, and I don't think this will be the case for someone with a re-entry visa like me who lives here. They're not talking about invalidating a valid re-entry visa. They're talking about not allowing people to come back into Japan after they left with unpaid medical bills. But yeah, this is seen as a problem, and this crackdown on misbehaving gaijins, this is another thing that is happening. With lots more fires happening with power banks in Japan, the government is about to introduce stricter standards. Given all the bear stories, I have this idea that perhaps we use the exploding power banks to scare the bears away. That's my idea. I don't see anything that could go wrong with that. There was a drama this week when at the end of the sumo tournament, the prime minister was supposed to hand over a prime minister's trophy. However, of course, women are banned from standing on top of the dohyo in the sumo ring. The entire situation was alleviated by the prime minister needing to go to South Africa for the G20 conference, and so she got a stand-in to deliver the trophy, and all concerns about a showdown with the Sumo Association were averted. The Sumo Association, apparently people said it is stupid for the for the Shinto for the Sumo Association to apply Shinto religious beliefs in a sexist way towards the sitting prime minister, to which they said, no, this has nothing to do with religion. We are non-discriminatory and equal opportunity towards, we accept people of all religions. It's not for that. It's a tradition that sumo has always been done in this way, just like the Greeks 2,000 years ago, and they didn't let women participate in the Olympics. It's just a tradition that we just don't let women hang out here. And that's all that we're doing. We're not anti-religious. We're just following a tradition of being sexist assholes, which seems like a really great explanation, and I'm sure it's going to go very well. They actually applied to be an official Olympic sport. The application, they went through a whole bunch of hoops, and everything was going great until they were asked about women's wrestlers. So yeah, the Sumo Association, really their own worst enemies. Trump has, with China reacting so calmly and rationally towards Japan, Trump called up Takaichi and said, how about you chill? Because of course Japan is the one in the wrong, and it does seem to be American foreign policy right now to make friends with the enemies and enemies with the friends. So apparently Takaichi needs to chill the hell out, saying that Japan will defend itself against Chinese aggression. So there we go. Also, I was wondering about this. I was wondering who asked the question about, if China invades Taiwan, would Japan defend it? Apparently the person who asked the question was former Prime Minister Yoshihiko Noda. Just an interesting point. Apparently the prime minister said, well, she didn't have any choice but to be clear, because that was the question. I was just respectfully answering the question, and it's really the former prime minister's fault. The Mainichi said, she really needs to not pass the blame on to him and just not be so direct about this sort of thing, which even she's kind of acknowledged. She said she's never going to mention specific countries ever again. But, the principle behind it, that if Japan's faces, existential risk, sure, it can defend itself, is a thing. Apparently there are more Japanese language learners than ever before in Japan at the moment. That said, there's also more foreigners than ever before. And I suspect with self-learning tools being better, I'm kind of curious how this is in terms of proportion to foreign population. But there's also a huge gap in the numbers here between 1990 and 2017. There's a big gap. Foreigners really started rocketing up here about 2010. And I got here in 1999, so I'm curious what it was when I got here. Certainly it's increased, but at the same time, with people being able to learn so effectively just by watching anime, frankly, which I used to say was a terrible idea. But now it turns out, so many people that are fluent in Japanese from learning anime, I practically encourage it if it's your thing. So, and you add AI and everything to that, so there we go. Chinese airlines have slashed 900 Japan-bound flights amid Taiwan tensions, which is great, because that means all of those slots at Haneda, the better airport, they should all fly into Haneda now instead of Narita. So I hope Air New Zealand gets one of those Chinese Haneda slots. But yeah, certainly it is costing Japan a lot of money, but at the same time, maybe your airline from your obscure country now doesn't have to fly to Narita anymore. We'll see. Maybe there's an upside. Apparently they open up the palace. They do this every now and again. Someone's asking me the other day, I'm only in Japan for a few days, should I go see the palace? To which I said, yeah, I run around the palace all the time, and I always see all of these confused looking tourists walking around the 5-kilometer perimeter of the palace, realizing that you cannot see the palace from anywhere from outside of the palace. You can see some of the gates and some of the walls and stuff like that. But although it's marked on a lot of tourist maps as a place to go that you assume that you should go and see, like Buckingham Palace, you cannot actually see the palace at Tokyo Palace. It's like the Champagne Room song. So, but a few times a year they do open it up and you can go inside. And I've never actually been inside, so I should actually do that myself sometime. If you work in a really tall building near the palace, which I have done, you can kind of peer into the palace. There used to be a building limit around the palace. You weren't allowed to build higher than 6 stories because you would be able to see the palace from the outside. But now they've gotten rid of that rule. But if you're in Tokyo, unless you are a runner and want to run one of the world's best 5K courses, there is no reason to go to the Palace unless it's open, in which case I would say go for it. It is great to go there. Yoshinoya is apparently doubling down on noodles. I didn't know this. Yoshinoya is a beef on rice restaurant, but lately they're doing beef on noodles, and it's actually not a bad idea, although it's a little bit like McDonald's selling spaghetti, if you ask me. It's kind of a different category, but apparently they're doing very, very well at it. Most foreigners are getting a clue and are moving from other prefectures to Tokyo because Tokyo is where it's at. That's why I called the show after it, but there we go. And frankly, the rest of Japan, while lovely, you know, in the end of the day, most jobs and so on are here. I could always visit the Imperial Hotel, where indeed you can get a view of the Imperial Hotel. You are absolutely correct. Aaron has visited the Palace on the 23rd of December, 2005. They opened it for the Emperor's birthday. Wow, you've actually been in there more than I have, so there you go. And that is about it. Oh, here we go. Apparently 13 people have been killed by bears this year. So bears have overtaken snakes on the annual kill ranking, but they're still behind hornets and will never catch up to mochi, to fried rice cakes, to grilled rice cakes, which kill about 600 people a year. But there we go. Mochi, the number one killer. Hornets second, snakes third. Traditionally bears last, but bears, there have been a lot of attacks lately. Oh yeah, and on this channel that I love, that I've mentioned many times before, Extra History, this season on the history of Japanese militarism. If you want to understand how Japan was both democratic and being run by the military and getting into World War II, with the government opposing the military getting into World War II all at the same time, you should watch this. Anyone who has any passing interest in Japan and wants to know how Japan got into the fucked up situation it was in should watch this. It is a fantastic, very watchable, well explained narrative of what happened. And I love this channel, and I love the way that it teaches history. We got big booty bitches. Congratulations, CJ Sunny set up. We're 4 minutes over. I think that's about it. Was there anything else? We've got foreigners are increasing all over the place, and that's the show. So now we have the after party, which both Aaron has down there, and since I created it, here is the QR code up there to come watch the after party, where you get to pick the tracks, and I will be finishing that by midnight. So I'm going to set that up right now. Thank you for keeping me company. All going well. We'll be doing the 2.5 Voyages this time next week over on Victor's channel. Otherwise I'll be back here. Thank you for keeping me company as always. Thanks for all the comments and the requests. Hope that you are having a great end of the year. Have a great December. I'll see you next week. Follow me on all the things, and boom, peace. See you later. Ending show now.